checked in. It's the Raggy Dolls.
Raggy Dolls.
Raggy Dolls.
Raggy Dolls.
Dolls like you and me. Raggy Dolls.
Raggy Dolls.
Raggy Dolls.
Raggy Dolls.
Made him perfectly. So if you got a bump on your nose or lumps on your toes, do not despair. Be like the Raggy Dolls and say I just don't care. 'Cause Raggy Dolls,
Raggy Dolls.
Raggy Dolls,
Raggy Dolls.
are happy just to be Raggy Dolls, Raggy Dolls, dolls like you and me.
It was a bright and breezy day, and the Raggy Dolls were in the big field, looking for somewhere nice to have a picnic. "What about over there?" said Princess, pointing to a grassy mound. But when they got there, they found it was too windy. "We need somewhere more sheltered," stammered Hi-Fi. "How about under those trees?" suggested Lucy. But when they got there, it was too shady, and there were lots of thistles.
I wouldn't like to sit on one of them,
said Sad-Sack. "Look," said Back to Front, "over there." He pointed to a big, round, flat tree stump. It was in full sunshine and sheltered from the wind by a thick hedge. "We could use that as a table, no problem." "Good thinking," said Dotty. But when they got there, it was just too tall for the Raggy Dolls to reach if they sat on the ground, and not quite wide enough for them all to sit on top and still have enough room for the tablecloth and all the picnic things.
We can't have a picnic standing up,
moaned Sad-Sack.
That would be silly.
"Gosh," said Dotty suddenly, "this tree must have been really old when it was cut down." "How can you tell?" asked Lucy. "By the rings," answered Dotty. "Do you see these little lines?" The Raggy Dolls gathered round. "Each one of them joins up to make a ring, see? They get smaller and smaller as they get nearer the centre. There's one ring for every year of the tree's life." "Wow," said Back to Front. "There must be hundreds of them." "Let's count them," said Lucy. While the others were busy on their hands and knees counting the tree rings, Sad-Sack found a nice grassy spot with no thistles and set out all the picnic things on a big tablecloth. There was lemonade, cold sausages, bread and butter, homemade blackberry jam, hard-boiled eggs, and some salad from Lucy's kitchen garden. 372, called Dotty at last.
I beg your pardon,
said Back to Front. I'll make it 363. You must have counted some twice. Or you missed some out, said Dotty, rather hotly. She was good at counting, and she didn't like to be told she was wrong. Oh, never mind, said Lucy, who couldn't stand arguments. Either way, it's jolly old. I wonder what it's like to live even half that long.
The picnic's ready,
called Sad-Sack. Oh, well done, Sad-Sack, said Princess, also glad to change the subject. I'm starved. Everyone sat down, but just as they were about to eat, a bump suddenly appeared in the middle of the tablecloth. It wasn't an ordinary bump, because it got bigger and bigger. The Raggy Dolls jumped to their feet. Lucy's knees began knocking. Oh, she whimpered. Whatever can it be? Shh, commanded Dotty. Listen. Sure enough, the Raggy Dolls could hear a faint puffing and grunting. The bump got bigger and bigger, and the grunts got louder and louder, until all of a sudden the tablecloth ripped, and two muddy hands with big claws appeared. Lucy gave a shriek as a long pink nose popped out, and then a black shiny head. It was a rather puzzled mole.
Terribly sorry, didn't see you there,
he said to a plate of sausages. The Raggy Dolls laughed. Well, well, said Dotty. How do you do? Have you come to join our picnic?
What? Who's there?
Said the mole, squinting about.
Have I interrupted something? Beg pardon, I was just telling the mice.
Mice? Whispered Lucy. What mice?
I think he means the sausages, chuckled Back to Front. Moles are very short-sighted, you know.
After everyone had been introduced, and the mole had wiped his muddy paws nice and clean on some long grass, they all sat down to enjoy the picnic. The mole was very talkative and full of information about lots of different things, and of course he knew all about tree rings and how to tell the age of a tree.
370, you say? That's just about the time of Oliver Cromwell and the Civil War. That tree stump was just a sapling then, and by the time of Queen Mary and William of Orange, it must have been quite a tall tree.
Gosh, said Lucy, you seem to know an awful lot about history.
Ah, well, said the mole, we moles may not be able to see very well on the surface, but we like to know what's going on. Stories are handed down from mole to mole, in fact. One of my ancestors was quite famous, you know. But forgive me, it's not often I have company, and I seem to be talking an awful lot.
Oh, no, said Princess, who liked to hear about kings and queens. Do go on.
Oh, well, poor old William of Orange died after his horse accidentally stumbled on a molehill and he fell off. Some people were glad and used to raise their drinks and toast the gentleman in the black velvet waistcoat. My ancestor, in fact.
Oh, said Lucy, quite shocked. Who could do such a thing?
They were called Jacobites, said the mole.
Sadsack was confused by all this talk of oranges and toast.
Jacobites are biscuits, aren't they? Oh, no, said the mole. They were supporters of James II, who had vowed...
The mole stopped suddenly, and his nose began to twitch.
I smell rain, he said.
The Raggy Dolls looked up, and sure enough, a big black cloud was blowing towards them. Bother, said Dotty. We'll never reach shelter in time. We'll all be soaked. Big drops of rain began to fall.
Follow me,
said the mole, heading towards the tree stump. Well, where to? Stammered Hi-Fi.
Underground,
answered the mole. The Raggy Dolls looked at one another in disbelief, but in no time at all, the mole had dug a hole big enough for all of them to crawl through.
In here,
he called. The Raggy Dolls grabbed what was left of the picnic and followed the mole. To their surprise, they found themselves in a big hollow space under the tree stump. It was perfectly dry, but a bit dark and gloomy. Luckily, Back to Front had a pocket torch. It's quite cosy, said Lucy, no longer feeling afraid.
Welcome to my world,
said the mole. Tell us more about what happened when this tree was alive, said Claude. I am, how you say, hungry for to know. The Raggy Dolls made themselves comfortable and listened as the mole told them all about the Scots fighting the English, the French Revolution, the invention of the steam engine, Napoleon and the Battle of Waterloo, the Industrial Revolution, Queen Victoria and the British Empire, the invention of the motor car, the First World War, and the Second World War, right up to a man landing on the moon. Gosh, said Back to Front, what a lot of wars, inventions and revolutions. Yes, said Lucy, and this tree saw it all. I mean, it could have done if a tree could see, if you see what I mean. Yes, we do, laughed Dotty, and it's all been quite fascinating. But now I propose a toast to our very own gentleman in the black velvet waistcoat.
Oh, no, protested the mole. That sounds far too grand. Mr. Mole will do.
The Raggy Dolls laughed again and raised their cups of lemonade. To Mr. Mole, they said. And thanks ever so much for keeping our picnic dry, added Princess. Outside, the rain had stopped. The Raggy Dolls said goodbye to Mr. Mole and crawled out into the bright sunshine. On their way back to the reject bin, the Raggy Dolls were lost in their own thoughts. It was Sadsack who summed it all up.
I wonder, he said, if people lived as long as trees, would they be able to understand each other any better?
Who knows, said Dotty. Who can tell?
Raggy dolls, dolls like you and me. Raggy dolls, made imperfectly. So if you're not at ease with your knobbly knees and your fingers are all funds, stand on your two left feet and join our Raggy Doll chums. 'Cause Raggy dolls are happy just to be Raggy dolls, dolls like you and me.